and install it. That's all right, and get everything going. So again, as Charlotte said, if you haven't had the opportunity to come see the show in person, please do. It's a great show. It's a really unique experience, and it's somewhat interactive. So you'll see some of that in video tonight. A couple of just little things. We've got a lot of this is pre-recorded, and we'll be playing. There are going to be portions of the video that are silent. That's going to give Shilpi and the artist a chance to talk over that. But we'll be sharing the screen. We are noticing that the volume for the video seems to share a little bit lower, so you may need to turn the volume up on your computer or device just to hear a little bit better. It's at the maximum on my end as far as I can tell. So, and without further ado, I'm going to introduce Shelby Chandra, who is our curator and our host for this evening. So whenever you're ready, we'll start the video, but Shelby, just go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I just want to thank everyone at the Pelham Art Center. You guys have been great. And that's the beauty of a community art space, that everybody's great to work with. And we can really bring some nice innovative programming to the gallery space. So thank you so much, Pelham Art Center. I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the premise of the show, Shadows, maybe how it came about, just as a lead-in into why these certain pieces are in the gallery. So, so Shadows, to me, when I saw actually some of these pieces in other locations, I felt that enhancing these shadows for these pieces would actually, give a greater depth to it and actually enhance our understanding of the pieces themselves. So I really thought about how to bring these pieces together and really, work on the lighting and to really enhance some of the dramatic aspects of the pieces. And also, like with shadows, I feel like you can pick up so many more details if you really look in the shadows that sometimes you can't actually see in the artwork, because in the artwork, in the shadows, actually things get flattened. And so if there's a 3D aspect to the artwork, in the shadows, you might see something else that may not be obvious in the actual artwork. So so in that light, I would just ask you, as we go through the to the video, to think about that and sort of appreciate the shadows around these pieces. So we have a few of the artists here who will talk for themselves, and whoever's not here, I'll go in and talk a little bit about their piece. So John has done a great job with the video, so we can go ahead and get started, John. So this first piece by Madhvi Subrahmanian is, as you enter the Pelham Art Center through the front doors, it's there on the side. And the sunlight that comes in through this window really highlights the grid-like and the nature of this work on the window, which Madhvi did while she was at a residency at Hunter College. And she was really working off the grid of the city, of New York City, and thinking about how the different streets and avenues sort of intersect, both in Manhattan and in Brooklyn, and where she was living. And so this is a piece that she made specifically for the Pelham Art Center, but it's based on other work that she did during her residency. And also we have this video that she also worked on called Liminal Spaces. And here she's using the sidewalks and the gum marks that you have, these black dots that are on the sidewalk, which are the remnants of chewing gum that people sort of throw in the streets. And she used that as a part of her drawings that she did all over New York City, she said, from 61st Street and First Avenue to the river. And she did these during the pandemic, and they were connecting sort of the hospital throughways that where all the ambulances and stuff were coming in the early part of the pandemic. And these are actually done with kolam, which is a rice flour. And she really is attracted to this medium because of the way that the kolam, which is a traditional process used in India in homes, done every morning actually on the threshold of homes. And she really likes that, the way it sort of marks this transitory space and the ephemeral nature of it, because you do it every day. So as a medium, she's using this kolam rice powder, with which she created these markings on the sidewalks. And so we have the video also as a part of the show, as well as a few of the stills from it.
The next piece is going to be Rootless.
And I think Yeon Ji's on the is here, so she can talk about this.
You hear Yeon Ji?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Yeon Ji Yoo, and the piece is called Rootless, and it is an installation that is meant to be kind of a woods. And basically it's made of paper, it's very light. You know, the idea is that you kind of walk into the space, and as you walk in, you know, like any amount of breeze or just a light touch will cause the trees to kind of swing around and the branches to move. And a lot of times, you know, we have those touchstones or those places that, you know, should adhere to gravity and should adhere to itself and stay and kind of reposition us and remind us of where we are in our individual journeys, you know, as a society. But I kind of wanted to use these trees that don't stay, because I wanted to reflect on kind of like a personal journey in which, you know, maybe I'm questioning the things that I thought were supposed to be stationary, as well as about my own upbringing as an immigrant. What does it mean for my parents to be, to have started a journey on their own to this American dream that they had, and it's not quite what it was supposed to be, or it's different. So I wanted to kind of show that kind of, it's a beautiful, expansive place. And I think the shadows that were cast, that John and Shilpi were able to really to manifest in there, made it more expansive. And, you know, and it's also meant to be scary, you know, so you're surrounded by these things that are taller than you. Yeah, as well as like a kind of critique on our environmental issues that we're having as a society on resources. And so I'm really appreciative of being included in the show, because I was able to grow this forest. It's actually twice as big as it was initially. And I was like, I saw this space and I was like, oh my God, this is such an amazing space to actually to do this, to make it what I want it to be. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and afterwards, you know, if anyone has any questions about the process or anything, I can definitely expand on that.
And this piece is right there in the front gallery as you enter the Pelham Art Center. So, and as Yeon Ji said, you can really move between the branches and the tree forms and into that space, and then sort of see that space expanded with the shadows onto the walls. So it's a really, really wonderfully interactive piece. Thank you so much, Yeon Ji, for being a part of the show.
All right. Do you want me to play, Tara, or do you want to talk first?
Yeah.
Did my volume go or did Shilpi's volume go?
Oops, I'm so sorry. I think I made it. Here we go. So the next artist in the show, Tara Sabharwal, she's an artist based in New York City and in New Delhi, and she is she works in printmaking as well as in oil painting and mostly 2D works. She's currently in India, which is why she was not able to participate tonight, but she put together a great video sort of introducing herself and the works. So we'll just have that play in her absence.
My name is Tara Sabharwal, and I'm going to talk about a few of the paintings and prints in the show here. I have several works in the show. I mean, one of them, I think there's one watercolor and the rest are etchings. And I also have some pen and ink drawings and two big etchings, which were done in China. So a few words about the watercolor. The watercolor is called Rootless, and it is on Yupo paper that I really like because you can paint on it and erase it as it goes. And as the title itself suggests, I'm very interested actually in not in the persona that we as people have on in our lives, but more in the vulnerabilities and the veiling and the parts that we're just discovering in ourselves, parts that we are composed of and we don't even quite know, that are mysterious to us. So this painting is in India ink with Sumi ink and some gold. And on the one hand, it's very ostentatious with all the gold, but on the other hand, it is very, it has its vulnerabilities. The two big prints here that I did in China in 2018. The first one, well, what happened when I was in China is that I was told that I went on a residency to Guanlan print base, which was really fantastic. I was given the opportunity to make two huge prints, and they would make a portfolio of a 50 edition of 50 and give me half the edition. And I was told that one print has to be about China, and I was very uncomfortable with this because I just reached and I was like, I can't suddenly do something about China. But then they came back to me and they said to me the next day, actually in my studio, they said, oh, you're making a full moon, that's Chinese. So I was like, oh, wow. So the full moon is Chinese, but that's interesting too, how something becomes Chinese because it's an auspicious symbol there. And as I was listening to them talk about the full moon, they were talking about a saying they have which says catching the moon in the water, which is the same as we have in India to say that don't go after the illusions, go after the real thing, which is the same thing which is in Advaita Vedanta and in Tao, in Taoism, which is the Nirgun and the Satgun Brahman, or the Tao that can be seen and the Tao that can't be seen. So I was very interested in doing this. And while I was doing this, I wanted to also make another one about the moon being the moon and being a part of it. So the idea of oneness, which is that you are the world and the world is you, and yet there is a separation, but to make it as minimal as possible. So you see in that print a figure, but it's sort of hidden in and out. Besides that, I think I have a set of drawings on 6 days, which was just like different experiences of things growing into things, the large view and the small view and the very, very vague view of things over a few days. And I have a pen and ink drawing called Calligraphy here, which again shows, which was done also, I think, from this experiences of traveling. I've been doing a lot of residencies. And this one was actually, I think, after a residency in Japan, where I was working with a Zen monk and trying out a lot of calligraphic strokes. And from that, just playing with one thing. And a lot of my work sort of happens very spontaneously. I make marks and the marks lead to some kind of indication of mood or weather or time of day or figuration. And I play with duality a lot. So calligraphy hill could be a plant drooping into the water, and it could be like a shiny mirror reflecting leaf. It could be a leaf, it could be a bird in the top left, and the water could be a little bit of water where the plant is, or it could be a whole hill with little figures. So to just leave this sort of like hanging between different worlds. So I think this is more or less the work in the show, and thank you very much for seeing it. And I'm pretty pleased to be in the show, and thank you to Shilpi for putting up such a lovely show together. Really enjoyed it. Compelling work in the show, everybody's.
The next artist, Mona Saeed Kamal, has 3 works in the show, all of which are paper cuttings of, and they're part of a series that she calls the Goddess series. These are all recently completed works, and she has on the left the series. She starts with the Venus of Wildendorf, which we know is an ancient fertility symbol that comes to us from, I think, the regions of Austria. And so she takes all of these strong sort of female figures in different from different parts of the world, and sort of combines them in these goddess series. And I think it's an ongoing series for her, where she is interested in, really depicting these strong women in these cultures, and as well as symbols of fertility or power. And what drew me to these were the fact that they're so finely cut that they have their own the shadow on the wall. If you see it, it just makes the piece feel in those negative spaces. It just like makes the piece feel like it's going beyond just the physicality of it. So and especially the way that she uses color, and then the shadows are all dark. So that was really what I was really appreciative of in all 3 pieces. This one is called the Hand of Fatima, or Hamsa. And this is a symbol that is very common in the Middle East and the Maghreb to sort of ward off the evil eye. And also the open hand is also a symbol of the blessing, of a blessing. So so she's working both with those motifs, and Fatima was a daughter of Muhammad. And so so there's a lot of sort of allusions to her as a really strong female figure. And so Mona uses that symbol, and then goes ahead and cuts through it to really enhance sort of the details of the piece. And the third figure in her series is the goddess Kali from Hindu mythology, who is the goddess of destruction, but the goddess of destruction in order to sort of renew everything. She destroys evil in order to sort of renew the world for what's to come. And so she's often portrayed in a very frightening sort of form, with her tongue sticking out, and these sort of flames coming out of her head, and arms that have different sort of different weapons to slay demons and things. And then she has the third eye, which is sort of the cosmic eye. So Simona brings in all of these motifs to again show the power of the female form and of the female sort of divinities. And when you see these pieces in the gallery, the way the lighting, I think, really enhances that, the more three-dimensionality of these pieces rather than the flat, that they're sort of flat, because it, again, picks up on those shadows that are in the negative spaces of the pieces.
Everyone, my name is Sadia Rahman, and I'm happy to take this opportunity to share my pre-recorded talk with you. And I want to thank the Pelham Art Center and Shilpi Chandra for curating me and inviting me to show my work in this really wonderful show, and I hope you get to see it. I'm going to share my screen and share some older work, and then also talk about the work that you will see or have seen in the Pelham Art Center. I want to acknowledge that I'm speaking from the traditional homelands of the earthwork builders, as well as other tribal nations of the region, such as Shawnee, Miami, Wyandotte, Delaware, and the people of the Fort Ancient, Hopewell, and Adena cultures. In my practice, I explore the relationship between public and private structures, images, and memory, how they relate, consolidate, and contest ideas about empire and labor. My work comes to life in different forms: installation, performance, wall drawing. Here's another example of that. And works on paper, different scale of works on paper. I made War Zone 1 by piecing together several brown paper bags. I was using brown paper bags and cardboard mainly for protest signage, and then it formally entered my work, collapsing what was going on in the streets and what was happening in my studio. And this is a video. It usually has sound, but just for this purpose, I wanted to show it without sound. And just a snippet of it. As I was making War Zone 1, I was not thinking of it as a work to be on display. And you can kind of tell because I actually use this as a stencil. So these black spray painted drones are actually for a different work that I'm working on in my studio, where the positive of these drones, the spray painted versions, are spray painted on the paper. So yeah, I was not thinking of it as a work to be on display, but it naturally came to be that, as a suspended banner. The work needed to be suspended in space so that it can catch light and viewers can walk around the cutout. Drones and mapping appear in my work often as signifiers of surveillance. While I was cutting the drones here, I was thinking about that type of looking, being looked at and watching. What are the things we see in the sky, and what are the things we see from the sky? Here you see this Gothic-like geometric form that look like patches of land. Here and here. You also see fireworks and clouds in several areas. And you also see drone screen markers, also in several areas. As the work is lit, the shadows are reflected on the floors and walls, complicating the way we consume and look even further. And that's my talk. Thank you so much. I hope you all get to see the show. Thanks again to the Pelham Art Center and also Shilpi.
Shilpi, did you want to have any comments about Warzone?
No, there's nothing. I think Sadia was pretty comprehensive, but this piece in particular, actually, we really wanted to enhance the shadows. It really brought about the show in terms of like what we were able to reflect on the walls and the floor. So yeah. So Nate is also not here with us tonight, but just wanted to reflect a little bit on his pieces that are in the show. He has these two pieces, both of which are working off of photographs, which is his style of working. He takes photographs and then moves them to paper and then manipulates the photographs in different ways by cutting them or by actually building upon the photographs. And so in this work, there's it's a large protest rally, and then you have this sort of silhouetted a picture of a police officer and a man. On top of that, sort of maybe invisible, maybe he's playing with that idea of invisibility, visibility. In this big rally. So his style of working actually with the cutting method is very different and comes out of his sort of, I guess, his background in nursing, which is what he's a trained ICU nurse. And he did that before coming to art. So I think like working with that, with those tools kind of comes very intuitively for him. This piece is a part of his series called Signaling, which he uses bodies in motion. This particular piece is actually a body in rest, but the other pieces have different bodies. And again, he starts with a photograph and then builds it up in different ways to sort of, almost treat the portrait as a landscape. We have the portrait, but he's the way he is manipulating that or adding to it, makes it feel, gives it more of an element of landscape to it. So both of these works are very, based on his practice and based on photographs, which he then manipulates. And these are the many details that we're looking at here.
I think we're almost there.
It's okay. It's nice to look at.
All right. Did you want to speak about Elizabeth before we play the video?
No, I think Elizabeth's work is in the main gallery. It takes up quite a chunk of the main gallery near the windows. And really, she works with X-rays, as she'll explain, which I feel are sort of, the things that you can't see actually that are inside our bodies. The views of the body that are usually hidden, but now through these X-rays, they become more explicit and more visible. So I'm sure she'll talk a little bit about that.
Sorry, I can't be here for the Zoom virtual opening. I want to thank Shilpi and Charlotte and John for all the work in creating the Shadows exhibit. I am right now probably either in a car or creating this installation in New Haven at the Eli Center for Contemporary Art. So if you get a chance to see it, this will be part of it. My work concerns the fundamental transformations of energy that create ourselves in our environment. I'm very interested in the patterns in nature, in the microcosm and the macrocosm, and how patterns that appear on the microscopic scale also appear on the human scale, and then again on the cosmic scale. So I'd like to play with those patterns. And sometimes I create site-specific installations like I did for the Shadows exhibit. And sometimes I create paintings and works on paper. It all changes. But I'm most interested in celebrating life energy and the patterns that create life. Night Vision is my site-specific installation I created for Shadows. And it's created from hundreds of X-rays. And these X-rays are cut out in floral and plant-like forms, and then interconnected with staples. I was fascinated when Shilpi approached me with the idea of this exhibit, because I've always been interested in shadows and how shadows reveal what we can't see or don't want to see. And shadows reveal what is hidden. And we really can't have wholeness unless we embrace the shadows. This piece very much echoes that whole concept, in that you begin to look at the installation and you think, oh, it looks like these shiny plant-like forms. And then on closer look, you see a spine or a kneecap or something quite different. So shadows always allow us to see something that is not in our consciousness or doesn't want to come into consciousness. And I'm fascinated with that. I originally created Night Vision thinking I wanted to show the cycle of life and how the cycle of life is much more complex than what we may think of it as being. And that each plant-like form, it grows, it blooms, it blossoms, and then it fades and dies, much like our bodies. And yet we don't think about how a bone forms, how a bone develops, and how it structures and creates a structure from which we live life from, and then slowly decays, and the cycle continues. So with this exhibit, I very much wanted to connect how what is hidden, what is unseen, what is lurking underneath or behind or inside can become visible and show us a new, much more complex whole than what would be evident if we didn't look more closely. And again, thank you for putting this exhibit together. And I'm sorry I can't be there in person.
Okay. Shilpi, did you want to talk about Tansy's video before we show it?
Sure, I can talk as you show it. This is a pretty long video. And Tansy comes out of a background in theater. And as we go through the video, you'll see that she uses these old theatrical spaces to create this video. And she is developing this. This is an interactive piece where she actually is working on the idea that in other cultures, audiences actually doing a theatrical experience are often talking back and in conversation with the actors or with what's going on screen, even like they're actually, you know, like screaming out or responding to what's happening, and being a sort of a very quiet and attentive, or being very quiet and audience is actually quite a Western concept. So she created this piece as a very sort of interactive piece where people can interact with what's happening on screen, sort of referring back to more non-Asian ways of looking and theater. So here she uses these old theatrical spaces, and she references, you know, sort of how the screens are set up. And this is a really long piece. So as we're going through it, if people have questions, we can.
Yeah, and this is our last piece in the video, Shilpi. So at any point that you want me to stop it, we can take questions or whatever. So I can turn it down and we can take questions if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I think we can open it up to interaction with the audience if anybody would like to comment or talk about anything.
Elizabeth has a hand raised. So Elizabeth, if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, this looks great. Thanks for sharing it with us this way. We really appreciate it. I'm wondering, how do you go about selecting the artists for once you have a theme? How do you select a theme? But then how do you select the artists? There are so many out there.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's very difficult. I mean, you have to, I must have seen over 50 different artists' works, and sort of, you know, got in touch with many of them and did studio visits, try to see, you know, even when you have an artist that you like, then you have to kind of, you know, go through and select what pieces would work for the show. So it's a really long process. You know, first finding artists, and then, you know, asking them if they're even interested in participating, because, you know, artists have lots of other things going on in their lives, and, you know, is this a good time for them or not? So I found a lot of these artists. Instagram is a great medium these days, just, you know, to see what people are posting and what sort of images they're creating. Other ways were through different websites, different art institution websites, to just go through and see, you know, if something catches your eye, and then sort of delve deeper into that artist's work, and then, you know, go ahead and contact them and see if you can do a studio visit, and then pick works that would fit the space. And then, you know, the last part is like, how do the works all come together? How do they all sort of talk to each other once they're in that space? So that's also something that you have to think about as you're picking the pieces. Like, you want some, you know, pieces that are on the wall, some that are more interactive, just to, you know, to keep things interesting. So so I think that, yeah, there's all of those things to consider.
And then I just wanted to add, how long does it take then from concept, when you think of what the theme would be, till you go to exhibit? How long can that take?
In museums, it usually takes more than 2 years. In this case, it took about a year. I think I started conversing with Charlotte about it last spring, and we finalized the dates. And so it did take about a year. But most museums and sort of other non-community spaces would probably take about over 2 years to put an exhibition together.
To add on to that, like, for example, for guest curators here at Pelham Art Center, we are currently booked through October of 2023 is our next available space. So, you know, that's just kind of the time frame as galleries and museums plan out their calendar far in advance. I actually have a question for Yeon Ji. Being that I'm here in the gallery with Rootless all the time, one of the questions that we get asked quite commonly is the process, and how you made the trees and the materials used.
Well, I'm gonna use this opportunity to kind of show you the mess of my studio, because I'm here right now and you can see some of the sculptures I'm working on. But the pieces that are in of Rootless, they're ink drawn. Well, it's ink drawn on vellum paper. And I have some here. This is the leftovers from Rootless. And you know, I love working with ink because for me, it's not only a drawing medium, but it forces me to kind of, well, like it gives me a chance to make the mark, and then it's fluid and it's going to change and it's going to do its own thing. And I really like that kind of push and pull of, you know, what I do and then what happens to me. And so it's ink, you know, and also, you know, we write history, we write things down in ink, and I really like that medium, and I like that idea that I'm kind of like, it's, you know, these trees are based on like personal, it's a personal story. So I'm like rewriting a story about something that happened before my time, but happened to me as well. And so, you know, I like that it's about that kind of, it is with that material of ink. But also like it's a very structural material. If you ever let ink kind of dry or even pile up, it becomes like, it's solid. It becomes like a stiff material. So I'm using all of that. I also play with just letting it kind of interact with salt at times. And so you kind of see some of that texture in the tree. So I would take this and I rip it. I use glue. And just kind of build these hollow tubes like this, and then they're interconnected to be trees. And yeah, there's breakage every time I move it and install it, but that's part of it, and I embrace it. And you know, like I maybe secretly like the torture, but I definitely do like the idea that I'm kind of rebuilding things as I work, and have to reconnect myself to the process and to the piece. So yeah, and then they're just hanging from fish line. They're super light.
What glue do you use? As somebody pointed out to me today, vellum wants to be flat. So how do you keep it in those curls?
So I use a combination of tacky glue right here, which is, you know, it dries pretty well. Vellum does want to be flat, so like on the surface, but when you rip it, it does like to curl up depending on the way you rip it. So I give it a gentle curl also with like dowels or whatever, and then I use glue. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry, I'm gonna admit that I use hot glue gun too, even though I try not to, but it's, you know, it works for it. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? Shilpi, any other comments that you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to cover? I know we didn't get a lot of time for Madhvi's piece, if you wanted to go back and talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was rushing just a bit, just talking about, you know, the ephemerality of her medium, and, you know, how I thought, you know, with shadows also, they're very ephemeral, right? We see them throughout the day, and then they go away. So that really struck me, you know, as very in keeping with sort of the theme of the show, the way she uses the kohlem, the rice powder, as her medium. So that was just something that I had been thinking about also in terms of her work. There's nothing else that I really want to say. If anybody has any other comments, of course, I'd love for everybody here to come and see the show in person, and let John and me know, you know, what you think of it. But if there's any other comments about process or anything else, please feel free to ask.
If you do get a chance to come and see the show, I am here every day except for Tuesday, and I'm always happy to give a tour around, answer questions when I can. The show is up until March 26th, I think. Again, Pelham Art Center is open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5 every day. I'm just not here on Tuesdays, but the gallery is still open, so you're certainly welcome to come in and see the show on those days as well. If no one has any other questions or comments, then we'll wrap up for the evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to this, and thank you to Shilpi and to all the artists who put together such a fabulous show, incredibly inspirational, and really, you must see it in person. Videos do not do some of these works justice. So please come see us, and admission to the gallery is free. So you are always welcome to just come and take a look. So.
Yes,
All right.
Thank you so much, John.
Very good.
John was really great to work with. I really appreciate all your efforts on the show. And thanks so much, Charlotte, for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye, Angie.
Bye.